Fight fans from Red Curl Present MMA. My guest getting ready today, making his UFC return July 18th. Oklahoma City. He's taking on Chase Hooper. He is Mr. Mitch Ramirez. Mitch, what's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Really cool news, man. You got a fight. First time since last year, about a year off, man. Pretty excited to go back out there and do it again.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I've been wanting to get back in there. Just had a couple, health and life hurdles needed to get past, and then, finally, got everything together and offered me a fight and had plenty of notice to do it. So I was ready to go. I had to take, like I said, a little time off, injuries, everything else, as the game. So, but yeah, I'm trying to be more active this year. It's like I feel like that's always been the biggest thing in my way is my own self. So, but we're back.
So many people are watching martial arts in this day and age. Very few people understand what's it like to be a professional fighter. I feel like they see the John Joneses of the world and the GSPs and the O'Malley's. They see the Spain, the Fortune, the girls. When you're battling on the regional scene, trying to make it there, man, you're not making millions of dollars. You're staying up late. You're waking up early. Even when you get to the big show, man, you're grinding every single day to keep it going, keep staying in the UFC. For you, what's made you want to do this for so long?
I mean, it was my dream from the time I was young, and then it's funny because like the longer you do it, and the better you get at it, it's like the more I guess like consistency is the hardest thing to maintain. It's like it's one thing to like want to show up on your own accord and go to practice a few times a week or even once a day and like have fun and whatever else. It's another thing to like now it's your job and like you have to go in, you got to go train. Like it's like if this is like we don't get paid by the hour, but the hours add up. So I think that that's over the years to stay motivated. It's I just every time I feel that like and I felt it a lot, that sting of whether it's this like a fight or life step, whatever else that's just you know getting in your way or giving you a hard time. It's like it's really easy to like start to feel like, man, like this sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm tired, I'm banged up, I'm this, I'm that. But I always come back to what else would I rather do? Like what would I rather do? Do I want to go, do sales or do, and every time I like look at like, okay, like am I ready to like, is this worse or is that worse? For me, it always comes back to I love fighting, man. And like I love being a professional athlete. I love being my own boss. So that's what gets my ass up out of bed and gets me to that practice I don't want to go to or whenever that motivation lags. But luckily a lot of the time, when you're feeling good, it's easy, it's fun. So
You mentioned wanting to do this ever since you were a kid. A lot of people don't understand. 20 years ago, this sport was not as big as what it is. It wasn't legal anywhere. I mean, people who you said who want to be an MMA fighter, they look at you like you're crazy back in the day. You've been doing this for over 10 years. When you first started getting into it, obviously it evolved a lot since when it first started. Any first fights? Do you remember? Have you had a fight at bars, outside? Do you have anything crazy?
oh, like it's like oh yeah, like so my first ever sanctioned bout. Well, my first amateur fight it was like back in 2016. Yeah, it was so it was at a bar and it was in the not in the bar. It was like this little bar in a small town out here in Utah. Like not like, probably like an hour from Salt Lake City-ish. And like this bar had this big outdoor back patio, and they just set a cage up out there. It was October, so it's cold, it's the mountains out here. Like there's snow on the mountains in October typically. And I remember like walking, the fight started at like 5 or 6 or something. That was the first fight of the night. It was my first fight ever. And I just remember walking out being like, oh, it's cold. And I remember thinking of the people later on the card, like they're gonna be freezing their ass off out here. And it was cold, but I knocked the guy out and got a good win there and got the ball rolling. But yeah, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget walking out, like staging from the bar and walking through like the back to the back patio and climbing into a cage. It was crazy. It was cool though. I mean, whatever.
For you, do you feel that fighting is more mental than it is physical?
A lot of the time, yeah. I mean, it is physical. Like it's very, very physical, of course, but like it's so mental, and I think that all sports are pretty mental. But fighting even more so because like you're taking damage. It's not just like, oh, you're tired and you're running and you're trying to catch this guy or you're trying to beat this time or shoot this ball, this kind of thing. Like you're dealing with physical damage in the real and in the real moment as well. So it's like, like how's that jump shot coming off when now you just got kicked in the elbow and the shit stuck. It's like so like the mental side of being able to like still push through that, power through that.
is I think what makes fighting so different, you know. And I think it goes for combat sports in general, but especially this kind of fighting, man, where like the consequences are high if you screw up. And like one way I like to put it, and I've tried to like put this into my head a little bit more of like, you know, like if I'm running with somebody and I'm like chasing to that top of that mountain, you know, we're trying to get to the top of the mountain first or whatever, and like I'm tired and he's tired, like you can kind of ignore that tired and push to the top. And in fighting, because it's so intense and crazy, sometimes I feel like guys lose sight of like that. You know, it's like this is 15 minutes, dude. Like to the top of the mountain. Like you're gonna get tired. Like I don't care how good a shape you're in, you're gonna get tired. That's what this is. You know, no matter even fastest marathon runners are falling on their face when they finish the run. And as a fighter, like I expect to do that too. So I just try to expect the worst, so I'm not, you know, caught with caught with my pants down, I guess, when shit gets tough. But yeah. Anyway, long way to answer. I think it's more mental than physical, probably, but at this level, it's as physical as it gets as well.
You're a very fun and entertaining fighter to watch. As a professional, you've only been to the judges' scorecard once. You're always looking for the finish. How much pride do you take in your fighting style?
I take a lot, man. I think that's why the UFC picked me up. Is they know that every time I step out there, no matter what, who I'm fighting, what the odds look like, anything else, like I'm gonna try to knock this guy out. You know what I mean? I'm gonna try to knock this guy out or submit him or do something to finish him. Like I've never fought like a boring fight in my career, and that's probably hurt me a few times. So I'd have been more willing to fight boring. I probably wouldn't have as many losses on my record, but I have a lot more wins and losses. And, now in the UFC, we're going to try to get that to be truth as well. Got my health back, got a good camp. So, I really do pride myself on being a fighter that people enjoy watching. But also now it's like, okay, we can do that, but we can do that a little bit smarter too.
The first time we saw you on a really big scale, obviously, was the Dana White Contender Series. You took out Carlos Prates, the guy's now one of the biggest names in the entire sport. What was that experience like for you? Obviously, it didn't go your way, but what was that whole trip like?
It was cool, man. I'd been trying to get a contender series shot for a while. I'm a lightweight. I fight at 155. And then had some, injuries, stuff like that, and decided to try 170 because I was having a hard time keeping my weight low enough. And it's like, contender series coming up and all this stuff. So went and won a fight at 170 and then decided to take a contender. They offered me a contender series fight at 155. And that fight was a way, way better fight for me, but I was afraid that like, oh, with the health stuff I'm dealing with right now, I might not be able to actually cut that much weight safely. And I didn't want to like, be the guy who misses weight on contender series or has a medical emergency. Like that's not a good look. So I figured it'd be better off for me just to go up and take this fight, which I looked him up. I was like, oh shit, this dude's tough, and like coming off a ton of knockouts, really, really, really experienced, man. Like for sure I think, as far as his striking and just like fight IQ goes, like he's the highest level guy I fought. But that comes with 100+ pro fights. You know what I'm saying? So that is what that's how that happens. So anyway, but it was cool. It was a challenge, and I knew that if I did things right, I could have won that fight, and I still believe that. But I didn't do the things right I needed to do right, and I got caught. So it was cool though. It was, main event on Contender Series. Nobody knew really who he was yet, but I knew he was like, especially after I fought him, I was like, this guy is one of the fucking best in the world, if not the best in the world. Like I fought enough guys and been around enough guys, lived in Vegas for years. Like just the stuff there's just, and I don't need to go into it, but like just certain things that guys do in fighting, like between the way they feint and what they do, their eyes, like their distance management, like the way they breathe, like all of it, it's like it's not just as simple as like, throw the jab, throw the cross, move your head. Like there's so much nuance in fighting, especially at the highest level. And like when you feel that, like it made me better though, to be honest with you, like fighting him made me a lot better. um, it made me realize like, oh, I could throw a kick like that instead. It made me be like, okay, well, like, what was he doing? You know what I mean? Like the way he's setting these things up, like I felt the brunt of it, but I also understood what he did. If like I hated losing. I wanted to beat the guy. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? But like afterwards, it was kind of like, okay, like that's I need to go there. I thought it was there, but I'm actually here. I'm not that far off, but I need to go there if I want to be the best, because that's and as he's proven. I mean, the guy, I believe he'll be a champion within probably the next year. I would guess, probably one more fight, and then it's got to be a title fight. I mean, Ian Gary, beat him on a decision a while back, and like maybe that fight after this one. But, I I think his argument for a title shot is higher than anybody in that division. So, it's like, uh, yeah. And just like I said, to kind of prove the point of like, I guess just that experience, it sucked. Don't get me wrong, getting your, orbital busted and getting knocked out on TV isn't great, but at the same time, like I took away for a lot from that. I never lost to anybody ever in my career before that. So, now we've had a few since, but those are different stories. But no, yeah, Prates was a fight where I went into that fight feeling pretty good. I was confident, everything else, and just wasn't my night. But yeah,
Following that fight, you found yourself back on the regional scene. You found LFA, amazing win over Tavares there, big first round finish. What was that time like in your life? Having a taste of it, falling back and trying to get back there.
it was just like, man, like, am I not going to pull this off? Like, it pissed me off. You know what I mean? It's like, damn, man, I made it all the way to here. And now, you know what I mean? I'm going to like have to go back to go forward. And it was just like, man, maybe I should have just not fought him and, taken the other fight and tried to make the weight. You start going through all these things in your head. And then I realized, yeah, I'm not a welterweight, and I felt that in that fight. He's a real welterweight. So it was like, okay, like if I really want to do the thing and make the UFC like I've always dreamed of doing, then I've got to go back down to my weight class no matter what. Okay, like if your health's whatever, like if it goes bad, it goes bad, but you're gonna have to cut the weight. You're gonna have to do it. So that fight against Tavares was a fight where like my eye had just got cleared, so like I had a pretty big orbital fracture in that first round, which blinded me. Which essentially, when I got off the stool in between the first and the second, I was blind. I couldn't even see. So I just basically went out there to like go out on my shield, against Prates in that second round. But in leading up to that Tavares fight, I basically recovered from that eye injury, and then as soon as they told me, hey, you can spar, you can train again, I took that fight 8 weeks out and just like went back to what I know, like bag work, running hard, like just like I just need to push myself and just keep my weight down and like go win this fight. And then it was like, hey, it's gonna be the feature fight, which was cool. And it was like, hey, Sean Shelby's gonna be there, he's gonna watch, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, like now I gotta go beat this guy had asked to fight me, and it used to be one of my training partners, was talking about he's gonna come knock me out, steal my shine and all this stuff. And and I was just kind of like, no, bro, not me, dude, you're about to lose your O. So it was really exciting, man. It was at the Palms, like all my friends and sponsors and everybody was there. So it was a really cool experience. But it was like, I got to pull this off, and then I did. And then I remember I finished him, and I stepped out of the cage, and I looked over, Sean Shelby was sitting down, I shook his hand, and then I walked, and he took off, and I took off, and I was like, okay, so he's here to see me. I think that's a good sign. And I got my UFC contract like in March, so that was in December, so it didn't take long.
So where were you at when you finally got signed to the UFC? Where were you at? Who called you?
I was actually I was sitting in a little like restaurant over by my place in Vegas, where I was living at the time, and I was actually eating chicken and waffles. I was eating chicken and waffles, and just feeling good, like no fight, nothing. My health had been being really weird on me, and I was trying to just like let my body do it. I've been training hard, and I've been looking for a fight, and like kind of waiting to see what was going to happen. So I kind of like let off the gas a little bit. I was a little heavy. I was probably like 183, 184 pounds, eating chicken and waffles. And I got the call saying, hey, like, do you want this fight? And I was like, of course I want that fight. And then like they're like, okay, like you got, I think it was 15 days. Make 156. You're fighting Thiago Moises. If you do this, you get a contract. You get a multi-fight contract. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And I knew it was a tough task. I knew that like at my best I could beat him. Like if I'm in good shape, I have a camp. Like I've like focused on on this opponent. Like I can beat that guy. I can beat anybody with the right camp and the right and things aligned. So, but I wasn't in shape, and it was a huge weight cut. And it was just really brutal, man. My body was I was dealing with a lot of weird health problems, genetic stuff and stuff like that. So that fight was basically it's like a nightmare. It was like, have you ever had one of those dreams where like you're trying to fight somebody and you're so weak, like you're just like, ugh, and your hands are pillows, you're just like, and you just like can't do anything about it. Like this, it's so frustrating. Like that's what happened in that fight to me. That's what happened in my warm up, and it was like that the whole fight. And I just remember being like, wow, we made it here, and this is how it's gonna go down. Like I was like, I was pissed, but at the same time, it's like my journey's my journey, my path's my path, so like you can't really complain, just got to just handle it and just move on and keep going.
So recently, big news in the UFC. The rankings are different now. And one of the components determined is the strength of opposition. When you look at the guys that you fought in the UFC, I mean, it's absolutely insane, dude. I mean, Protez on the Contender, Moises, Mike Davis. Now you're fighting Chase Hooper. On the regional scene, you were fighting guys with winning records. For you, is it just any place, anywhere, anytime?
I mean, pretty much like that's how I've always been. It's like, if I'm doing this, like I can do this. It's like I know I know I'm good. I know I got skills everywhere. I know that when I'm on, I'm one of the best. So, but also it's just like the opportunities you're given. You don't have control of that either. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I where I came up here in Utah fighting on the amateur scene, I had such a hard time finding fights. I fought amateur for 3 years, and I only could find 5 fights. And it was like, okay, or you have to travel and do all this, which wasn't like a thing I could do at the time, for multiple reasons. So I was always just trying to like find fights, and I was doing jiu-jitsu tournaments all the time and just trying to train. And then I became a pro, and then it was like, okay, like your pro debut is like tough ass dude out of Vegas, one of the toughest dudes out of Vegas. And then I knocked him out. And then it was like, oh, okay, now you're going to fight the toughest dude out of Idaho. And I knocked him out. Right. So it's like, and then, and that just was like, I've always been okay with like, okay, you don't think I can beat him? I'll beat him, And once I got to like the stage where now I'm going to the UFC, like it's like, I've shown I can beat good guys. I've shown I'm skilled, and I can either say yes or I can say no. And in this game, saying no a lot doesn't really work out very well. It's like choose your hard, right? Do you want to be saying no and being picky and choosy about fights? And then like, it's like that's cool to some people. Maybe that's all they want is to like go to the UFC and like win some fights and like say they did the thing. But for me, it's like I said this from the beginning as an amateur when I started really doing this. I want to fight the best guys in the world. I want to fight guys I want to fight guys whose names I can't pronounce. You know what I mean? I want to fight the best guys. Like if I'm not fighting the best guys, I'll go do something else. Right. I know I'm that good. I believe I'm that good. And I've shown them that good. It's not gone my way it's not gone my way in some of these fights, but at the same time, like every single one of those dudes that you named knew that they were to fight with me, right? And they were feeling it after, I guarantee it. So it's just little mistakes and little adjustments, that need to be made, and I can go out there and I win those fights. And it's like, for me, strength of schedule has always been something that I take pride in, and that, I didn't get in this to be cool. I didn't get in this so people could say, oh, look at him, about whatever else. Like I got into this to test myself and to try to be the very best. And, that's kind of what's been given to me. It's like, all right, then prove it, so, and I think I have, to be honest with you, in spite of, losing some fights, like I have proven that I belong in there with these guys, and that I can make a fight out of any matchup in the world. Right. So, but now in this fight, I'm really focused on being smart, being my best, and going out there and getting one in that win column too, because as we know, that's very important. You want to keep your job, you got to go win, dude. You can't just go put on good fights. They love that, but you got to win too sometimes, buddy. You want to stay around. So plan on flipping the script and doing some of that.
So you're taking on Chase Hooper, fan favorite overall. What do you think of him as an opponent?
Yeah, he's tough, man. He's well-rounded. He's not an easy matchup. He's long. He's well-rounded. He's had a lot of fights, in the UFC. He's young, but that doesn't mean anything. It's experience, so, but at the same time, like stylistically, what he does well and what I do well, I believe that, I will beat him, so it's just, with any fight, it's like, you can do a multitude of things in an MMA fight. And at the highest level, you're not going to be better than everybody at everything. You have to figure out a way to do what you do better in the fight and shut down what he does better in the fight. Right. And I believe that that's something that in the past I haven't fully focused on. I've just kind of gone and like been like, I'm going to go get a fight, whatever, like not a whole lot of game planning, not a whole lot of film study, just like I train hard, I'm in good shape, come fight me. And now we've switched it up a little bit, and we're spending a lot more time on, the details and how do we beat this guy? Because that's what this is at this level. It's not every guy if you have a UFC contract, you're a dog. People try to put like shade on a guy like, oh, he's in the UFC, but he's losing, or, you see it, when you win, you're awesome. When you lose, you suck, but the reality of it is that every single person in the UFC is one of the very best martial artists walking on planet Earth. Like this is a row of samurai. These are people. All we do is train our whole lives, and then we fight for money. Like this isn't, there's nobody sucks here, right? So like you don't go into every fight the same way if you want to beat the very best guys, because it's just not. I mean, maybe for a random few outlier freakos that might be the case, but it's not. Even John Jones. Everybody that dude is known for, and Jackson. They study film. John Jones watches. He talked about it. He watches film every day. He's always watching film. He wants to know his opponent better than he knows himself. And I think that his career has been a reflection of that, as well as a lot of talent and hard work.
Absolutely. So you found the UFC multiple times. First one under the Paramount era. This year there's been a huge buzz on the sport. One cool thing is the bonuses are bigger. You mess around, you get a big knockout bonus, $100,000 now. Have you been thinking about this?
Yeah, yeah, I have. I sure have. Yeah, I've been like, all right, now I'm motivated. I mean, I'm always motivated, but now it's like, okay, like that's enough to like, I really, 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 really want that. Like I could use that shit. I think we all could. Like you said, even this sport doesn't pay like people think it does, or I guess a lot of people know it doesn't, but it doesn't pay like some of the other organizations do, unfortunately. So as far as sporting goes, but yeah, $100,000 on a bonus is a pretty, hopefully that's changing and trending up, because that's a good move in the right direction right there. And I think that I heard something about they're doing like 25K finish bonuses. Like if you get a finish, you get an extra 25K no matter what. But if you knock somebody out and you get like a highlight reel, then okay, there's another 100. So that's good money, man. Like that's, you go do that a few times a year, and you're doing okay. You're paying your bills for sure.
So, the life journey of a professional fighter is a roller coaster. There's highs, there's lows. How do you think you have grown and evolved as a person from being in this crazy world?
A lot, dude. I mean, honestly, I've really changed. It's changed me in a lot of different ways. I think that uh, when life, like when your whole life and being is like hard, you know what I mean? Like difficult. Like it's like every day is hard practices, hard sparring. Like you get in fights people don't realize like, yeah, sparring is a fight half the time. Like, you can control and you can be smart, but like we are punching each other in the face, kicking each other in the head, and, hitting each other in the body. Like you're going to get exhausted. You get to do that every week, and then you get to do it in front of people. Then they get to see that in like full speed, every once in a while. And then they think, oh, that's cool. But it's like the lifestyle that you have to live, the discipline that it takes, as well as just like, I think I appreciate the other side. It's like I feel like it's made me like a nicer person too in a lot of ways, because it's like I don't have anything to prove to anybody. You know what I mean? I know I can fight. I'm one of the best in the world at it. I would rather just like hang out with my dogs and what I mean? Like just have it, be chill. I feel like a lot of people that like haven't fought or like don't train, they like that ego makes them kind of act a certain kind of way in certain situations. And I feel like for me, it's like once you have done this, as long as I've done this, it's like I don't care, like it's just like I feel like I have a lot more patience actually. Like some people would think like, oh, you learn how to fight, you just want to go beat everybody up for everything. It's like, no, actually, I have a lot more patience for like people and things than I feel like I used to. And that's a direct reflection of a lifetime fighting.
So many people are watching this now. We have a term called the casual fan, and I think all fans are good for the sport. But sometimes you might be at the bar watching the fight in the stands, hear twist them in the what. You read all these crazy comments, you hear all these crazy takes. Since you've been in the public spotlight, since you've been a fighter in the UFC, have any memes about yourself, comments about yourself on social media, anything funny that have kind of stuck with you?
Hmm. I mean, I don't know. Not anything like too crazy. I mean, I feel like when I'm like in camp, I try to not be on social media a lot, just because it just distracts me, and then you can like fall into that trap of responding to comments or some stupid shit, and I just don't care, but I feel like there was I mean, there's been a couple moments like when I was getting to the UFC and stuff like that where I got some shine, or like, have some viral moments. That I would say that one thing that I remember, I guess, is like in the moments I've had where like I had something go viral, like the amount of negative attention is crazy. Like honestly, like the amount of negative attention you get is insane. Like the amount of like hater comments. I don't know if it's just the the sphere of MMA or what, the internet in general, but like I just was like I was surprised. I was like, oh man, like I don't know if I want to be. I don't know if I don't think I want to follow him. Like goddamn, like people are people are a lot, and I think that fighting attracts a lot of people that are like kind of angry, that kind of like want to see some shit, like I don't know, like I mean, there's a lot of good fans, don't get me wrong. I love the fans, I'm not hating, but there's a portion of these fans that are definitely a little bit angry and like to try to make you angry too. So, I just remember that being like, damn, like that's what this is. Like you have a big moment and it's just like, oh, just and like there's a lot of love too, don't get me wrong. And and I just think that what I realized is you can focus on one or the other. You can like either let it get, you can focus on the negative, you can focus on the positive. But I think that was surprising to me, was like how much hate there is out there, on the internet, just for people that don't even know you. It's crazy.
Absolutely. I think for the most part, casual fans are starting to understand what you guys are doing. They know you're trying to get fights, get bigger fights, win titles, and all that. But to me, very few people understand the fight outside of the fight. And to me, that's that fight not to clock in at 9 o'clock in the morning, clock it at 5. That's that fight to secure financial freedom. That's that fight to live life on your own terms, not follow societal norms, create some sort of platform and live life to the fullest. For you, has this been a big part of the journey?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that's what I was actually like earlier, as I was saying, was like, man, every time I'm like, here's your options, like choose your hard. Do you want to keep doing this or do you want to do something else? And it's like, because that's hard though. Like it's not easy to make a living doing this, even in the UFC, like to make like a comfortable living. Like the money comes in chunks and it goes fast, and you got to find other ways to generate income. And it's not like this simple, straightforward thing where you make it to the UFC and you're rich and you get all this cool stuff going on. No, it's like, dude, I feel like I made more money on the regional scene because I could wear sponsors on my shorts and do stuff like that I can't do anymore. So I actually took a pay cut going to the UFC, which is crazy, just crazy to think about.
Absolutely. All right, Mitch, last question for you, my friend. In a perfect world, what is the outcome July 18th when you make your return to the UFC against Chase Hooper?
Knock them out in the first round,
Absolutely. Well, Mitch, man, thank
tag
you
him,
so
put him
much.
out.
There you go. Thank you so much for taking time out fight camp to talk to me. Can't wait to see your return, man. It's going to be a great fight.
Hell yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. That's it for us, damn Carl Peruzza. He is Mr. Mitch Ramirez. You can watch him July 18th, taking on Chase Hooper, Oklahoma City. Don't blink, fight fans. It's going to be fun.